Listen up. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed in this podcast belong solely to the podcast participants, and not to any participant's employer, organization, committee, or other group or individual. This podcast is for entertainment purposes only. You know, for fun. So lighten up and enjoy. Oh, stomping Jen, here we are once again.
Another week.
Another week.
Another
day.
episode.
And we are going to be talking to Tiffany Marchand from Night Carver Designs, and also a podcaster from Behind the Maker podcast.
Cool.
I have many questions as usual. I will be asking them.
Yeah.
And you will be asking questions as well, I imagine.
I sure will.
All right. Are you ready to go?
Yes.
All right. Here we go.
The Soft Serve Podcast.
Creamy, delicious ideas without the creepy truck. I threatened to sing before we started recording Stomping Jen.
And you've delivered.
I have delivered on all of my threats.
As per usual.
Yes. Well, I'm excited. Without further ado, I want to introduce our guest, Tiffany Marchand from Night Carver Designs and Behind the Maker podcast. Hello, Tiffany.
Hello, how are you guys?
Doing really well. How are you doing?
Good. My dog decided to just come visit me right when the show started.
What kind of dog do you have?
She's half Chihuahua, half Beagle.
That's why we cannot see her.
Yes, exactly.
She's close to the floor.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. What does that say? I feel like a dog says something about a person.
Well, what does it say?
I don't know.
It says arf. It says woof.
Tiffany, do you feel your dog says anything about you?
Well, I wanted something easy to take care of, so, I chose wrong.
Well, again, thank you for joining us. I am notorious for giving vague and overgeneralized introductions to our guests. So I want to give you an opportunity to just tell us a little bit more about yourself, who you are, what you do, anything you feel like you want to add and tell people.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. I usually start with I'm a movie addict because it kind of shows you a little bit of why I make what I make. I was that kid who lived that fantasy life. Like, you'd watch like your horror movies, any kind of like fun comedies back in the day. And it kind of just like, I grew into this like little fantasy world, and I grew up with parents who made crafts. So my dad would like cut out wood and my mom would paint. So I was introduced to art at a very, very young age. So I kind of like, I don't know, from like 4 or 5 was already painting with our mom, just base coats and stuff. But I kind of got the bug when I was young. Mm-hmm. And I ended up going to Westfield State, since it's fun that you guys are a local show, so I can talk about local stuff here.
Yeah, Westfield.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, Westfield State College in Massachusetts, right?
Yep. Yes. I think it's Westfield University now. But I went there for fine art and graphic design. And I don't use that at all for my current job, but I do use it at nighttime for Night Carver Designs, where I get to, make really fun pop culture art. Mm-hmm. So I've been wood carving. So a lot of it's all wood carved. And I started that about almost 4 years ago now. It's like 3.5 years. And it was just all about like I had kids 5 years ago, and kind of, you get lost in that whole parenting thing where you're just like, your whole life revolves around keeping these kids alive. Yes. Yeah. So I needed something for myself, and I decided I needed to like get out into the garage and start creating.
Yeah, and we will post links in our show notes to all of your web presences. And
yes, please.
Yeah, and I encourage people to go and take a look at the different types of signs that you make. And is that what Night Carver Designs is? It's kind of, as you described, it's your sign making business.
Yes, yeah. It started off, fully intentional to be a business, but at first, it kind of started off a little slower, trying to get the business, not really making what I want to make. And then eventually I rebranded and started making the things that I enjoy. Because at first it was just like trying to go to like craft fairs and sell stuff. Mm-hmm. So you kind of make like what everybody would like, you know?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah.
Since you made that switch in your brand,
Mm-hmm.
What has been the response from the marketplace?
Oh, it's been overwhelming. It's been amazing. So when I first started, it was called Marchand Woodwork, super creative. And after a while, I just my husband was at first, he was going to start with me and he didn't really like it. So he kind of dropped out of it. So then it was just me. So I'm like, it felt weird. First of all, it's it's my married name. I was 34 when I got married. I'm 39 now. So I had my, it felt weird to be using that name as my business name. And I wanted something that would describe me more. And I do this at night. So I figured, why not Night Carver Designs? Mm-hmm. It worked out well. And people understand I'm more of a designer, an artist, less of a woodworker. Because I've never built really anything in my life. I don't consider myself a woodworker. I consider myself a wood carver.
Yeah, no offense. Night Carver Designs is cool as fuck. Yeah. I heard that name. I was like, wow, that is cool.
Yeah. I asked you that question, though, because I can imagine that when you're trying to make things that you think people will like, right?
Yeah.
And then you start to do something that's more authentic. I would imagine that you would get more response to the thing that...
The response was huge. It all started with my husband wanting a Ninja Turtle sewer cap. Mm-hmm. And once I made that, people were like, oh, you can make that kind of stuff? They didn't know I could paint because I was busy making, welcome to our home signs and things like that with moose on it and deer, it wasn't me at all.
Yeah.
So, and I still have them for sale if anybody's curious. They're right over there.
Yep. And Tiffany's pointing to an area behind her where she has all these signs. And where does the name Night? You said that it's because you're doing this carving at night. I thought maybe it came from a horror movie or something.
Well, I wanted it to be, at first I was going to be calling myself the Night Carver because it sounded very serial killer sounding. I was like, this would work for a horror brand. And then I was like, well, the Night Carver, it's cool, but nobody knows what I do. You know what I mean? So that's why I changed it to Night Carver Designs, because I felt like the word designs had to be in there. But I still want to be very horror, centered. And I'm sure you've seen my logo. I have two different logos. One's a zombie hand with wounds on it and a router bit for the middle finger.
That's awesome.
And then I have it it's coming out of a big splash of water because I live on a pond. So I kind of wanted to represent everything from my, my life. And then the other one is a tombstone. So, that way I could have it for t-shirts and hats and whatnot. So I try to be really thoughtful when I rebranded.
Yeah.
I love it. I can respond to that as a fellow pop culture aficionado. Totally.
Awesome. Yeah. When we hopped on and I saw your guys' background, I was like, yep, these are my people.
Yeah. And you said even here and on one of your web presences, which I'm going to talk about in a minute, that art has been a part of your life for as long as you can remember. And you've had a lot of early memories of art. Can you share an early memory of working with art from your childhood?
Yeah, absolutely. So like I said, I started with my mom and dad with their cutouts, but I started loving Disney movies and kind of got hooked on them, right? And at that time, there was a big circuit of those how to draw books. And they had a whole Disney series. So I had my mom grab me those. And I would literally just sit there and draw all the Bambi characters over and over again, trying to get better and better. I never took art classes. I always just did it at home. It was just all self-taught because I loved it so much. And then when I was in high school, I finally took stuff in senior year. I'm I'll take every single art class. And because I knew I was going to go to art school for my living, I just kind of always had it planned out, I think.
Did you take wood shop in high school?
I don't think I did. Oh, yes, I did. I had one. Yeah. I took a lot of CAD drawing. I really liked that. And like, just like very, like, I thought I was going to do architecture at first, but then I was like, no, that seems a little too rigid for me.
Do you use like CAD drawing or some other kind of computer program in your process now when you're working on a carving or a sign?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now I'm doing that Batman design I was telling you guys about, and I am working in Illustrator. So I use Adobe Illustrator. That's my preferred program. First of all, because I got trained in it in college. So like I have that background training, but like as I've been doing this side business, I have been learning so much more than I learned when I was in school. I mean, I graduated college in 2004. So technology has changed a lot since I graduated. So I've had to teach myself how to do a lot of things, but like the foundation's still pretty solid, and it's just where I feel comfortable. And I feel like you can just make such great vector art in there.
I have never been able to wrap my head around vector art, like, and making it. Like, Illustrator is like one of the programs that always confounded me and continues to confound me.
Yeah, you like Photoshop.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they're related in the sense of their interface and their tool set, but vector art is like a completely different concept, right? And I never was able to get it.
You should try Procreate. I feel like that's like the easier way in.
Yeah.
Yeah, our daughter has Procreate.
Yeah, on her iPad. Yeah, on her crack.
She loves it.
On her cracked
kids
iPad.
get addicted to it.
Yeah. Now, the signs that you make as Night Carver Designs, do you only use wood? Do you use other materials? Do you make like metal signs?
I try to stick with mostly just wood because I want the grain to pop through. I want people to see like this is made of wood. Because I feel like, and no knock on anybody else with the MDF and stuff, but I enjoy carving into wood. Like I enjoy like the challenge of the grain and all the knots and all that fun. Like MDF to me is just like, I don't know, it just doesn't feel real. You know, well, it's not real.
Yeah.
But it doesn't feel like something fun that I want to be holding. And you know what I mean? Like I want real sawdust flying in the air.
It smells good too, sawdust.
It does. I just made some cedar signs and it smelled wonderful.
Yeah. And so do you make like custom signs for people? Do you make signs for businesses? And do you just make signs that you want to make too? Like all of those things?
I say all of the above. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So I would say I was trying to do every month, but that's overwhelming. Every other month or so, I will open up for customs, and I try taking just 5 at one time. It ends up always being about 15. You know, people just kind of like, it's hard to say no to when people, you know, they're trying to give you money and they want you to give them something, you know, it's hard to say no to it, but it can get really overwhelming because I'm only doing this 2 hours a night.
Yeah.
You know, and you can like, I got to take a night off here and there too, because otherwise you just go insane.
You burn out.
Yeah. So I would love to take more. I'd love to be full time one day. But right now I just once in a while take orders in. And then I try to leave myself time because I also sell my art at the Zombie Hideout in Springfield, Mass.
Oh yeah, I reached out to them to come on the podcast. They said they might.
Oh, Bill's great.
Yeah.
If you want an insider too, I talk to him all the time. He's really great. He's expanding his store like insane.
Yeah.
So.
Put in a plug for us, please.
Totally. He's really awesome. So yeah, I try to. He's been having people come there and do signings. So like, you know, he had, oh God, I can't remember which one, but the guy who played Jason.
Kane Hodder, I think, right?
He's coming soon.
Yes.
Kane is coming soon, but they had another guy, and I'm completely blanking out on his name, but I made a ton of machetes and like Camp Crystal Lake signs, all for that. So I have to leave time in my schedule to make sure I can fill his shelves too.
Yeah.
I've got a spot there. And then I also am going to be sending myself to California to the glass warehouse because she's trying to like, you know, open up the world to, you know, moms who smoke weed and all that. And kind of like normalize it. And she wants other women who make, like I make cannabis themed art. So she wants to support people who are making stuff in that area. And I think it's an awesome way to do it. Like we're gonna have a nice little station there too. I just got to figure it all out with like shipping costs. That's the scary part.
Yeah, I saw your cannabis. I saw one of your cannabis leaf signs, and that was a really nice piece. It's like carved in relief, like the leaf pops out in 3D off of the wood. That was really awesome. I have to mention the machete sign you referenced. I saw that online too, and that is awesome. Like, I love that.
Did you watch my commercial?
I haven't watched the commercial yet, but is that on your
It's on my Instagram page. I did a really cheesy voiceover on it, and I'm like, "Make mommy proud."
That's awesome.
I was like reading all the quotes that I was putting on them.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
Oh, I love that. And I have to mention one of the other signs that I saw that you made was a Pennywise the Clown sign. Did that just come out of your own brain, like your own love for making horror things, or was that a custom piece?
So that was me just trying to make some cool things that were horror related. I have even more designs ready to go. I just don't have the time to do it. I use Etsy as a big resource because people put awesome files out there for sale for you to make stuff with, but people usually just use those files to print on a t-shirt. You know, no one ever like takes them further. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, it's really cool to buy this template and make something out of it. Like, I usually tweak it and kind of like make it fit my needs, but to have a base file where you can like completely change its intention is really fun to do.
Mm.
Yeah. And so walk us through when you get an idea, what's the typical sign making process like for you from idea to the finished project? How does that work?
Yeah. So, I mean, it all depends. So if it's a custom, it's a lot of going back and forth with the client and trying to see exactly what they are looking for. Like, I try getting their budget up front because that's huge. I mean,
right.
I used to severely undercharge for my stuff. I still have that issue once in a while because it's just hard to charge people. Mm-hmm. But like, that's one of the biggest things is I need to know your budget, how big you want it, and then what is your goal for it? Because I've had to talk people out of the design ideas and change it to other things. So it's a lot of kind of at first getting to know the person. And then once I have an idea of what they want, it's a lot of research. So before I even try to draw a thing, I'm going in and I'm scouring for ideas and seeing what I can find there on Etsy that's already kind of like started for me. It's like, I can give an example. The elephant sign I did with the flowers, like that was a pre-drawn illustration that I took. And then I added some words around it and tweaked the file and got rid of some of the lines because it would have been just like way too heavy in carving. Yeah. And then I uploaded it, into the carving software, got my wood. And the first step is obviously I'll determine, is it going to be a CNC carve or am I going to hand carve it with my routers? Mm-hmm. Because I feel like some designs require the hand touch because like they might be over complex, and the CNC would just take too long to set up that file to carve. Because I think what people don't realize is if it's not something that you can find on Etsy, you have to hand draw this stuff.
Right.
And like part of the price is, you got to charge for your design time. So Etsy helps save people a lot of money by having some stuff already gone for us. But like, depending if I can't find like a already live file, I'll hand carve it just so I can save the people money too, because it would be a lot of money to charge me 4 hours just to create your file before we even go and put it on the CNC. Mm. So that's like one of my determining factors. And then lately I can't resist but to pull out my angle grinders. I'm like completely addicted to them. And I usually will carve a piece on either the CNC or by hand. And then the next step is usually adding a lot of texture or depth with my angle grinders. Get it all sanded and ready for paint. And then paint can take, depending on what the project is, it could take 2 hours. It could take 20 hours. So just trying to fit it in. So like I kind of rotate, like, am I carving tonight? Am I painting tonight? It's kind of a big balancing game. And I usually take quite a few orders at one time so I can rotate them.
Yeah.
Like one day I'll just carve all day.
Is the CNC, and sorry if you said this and I missed it, is that some kind of computerized router that helps do the carving for you after you program it in?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have my biggest carving area for my CNC is 29 inches by 29 inches. It's called an X-Carve. It's by Inventables. And yeah, it's a computerized carving machine. You load in the design and you kind of just like, you got to pick your depths and you can adjust things. You can play around with the different bits. Like that's kind of like one of the most fun pieces to do is kind of throw the design in there, but then you sit there and tweak like, oh, I think I'm going to have it carved like this deep for this one, maybe a 1/4 inch here, 1/2 inch here. And you can really kind of see where the file's going to go because it gives you a 3D rendering before you even, put the wood on.
Wow.
And that's pretty awesome. Yeah. It's
How do you
really
learn
cool.
how to, do you have to go to school? Like, how do you learn how to work on a CNC machine? Like,
I just saw YouTube, which there wasn't a lot of. And I was saying, you need to make YouTube stuff. And I'm like, I just don't have the time. I wish I could. But like trial and error.
wow.
I've ruined a lot of wood.
You can go to the CNC Music Factory.
Oh, stop it, you.
Yes.
It's CNC. It's not CNC.
Oh, sorry.
I learned a lot off of like Facebook groups. There's a lot of like newbie groups that you can join. That's actually how I learned how to hand route or carve, was from like joining a newbie group.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That is super cool.
Can I just say something?
What?
Everybody
Oh my
carve
God.
now.
Jesus Christ.
That's what you learn at the CNC. All right. Anyway, sorry. How did you learn to carve by hand? Did you just pick up tools and start doing that on your own?
Yeah, it's a funny little story. We were on our way to a Bruins game, and I happened to not be driving. I usually am the driver, and I was chilling in the back seat, and I'm like, man, I really want to carve signs. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever been to the Big E in West Springfield, but like, there's always that dude in the back of like one of the buildings carving signs live for people. And like, I would just go there going, I can do that. I can do that for years. Like, since I was young, I always wanted to do it. And like I was saying, I was looking for an excuse to go to the garage, right? Because I had the kids and I just needed some time for myself. And I found this group called Hand Router Carving for Newbies. I joined it, immediately like started scrolling through all their posts, saw what tools they recommended, and just started buying stuff while we were driving. Like, I was just buying tools. So then like 2 days later, all my tools show up. And I just like watched the videos and talked to the guys and girls that were on there, and eventually just gave it a try. And I still have my first sign in the garage. I just wrote, I had like a cake business with my sister. So she runs Three Broke Chicks Cakery. She still does it. Good for her. I couldn't do it after we had kids. But I was doing cake decorating and we were selling art on the side. So I've always kind of had a side business. But like I used to watercolor paint and things like that. And so I already was very used to the drawing and the marketing of that. And I forgot what I was talking about because I went on a tangent.
You like to make stuff, cakes?
Yes. Oh, yes. How did I learn to make? Yes.
Yeah.
So I asked them like, what should I carve on that site? And someone said the word believe. I was like, all right, well, I'm not very religious. I felt too religious to me. But I go, I can make like a Believe in Boston sign. So I did like the Red Sox font and I just wrote the word believe, and it's still hanging up in the garage because like I like seeing all the errors that I made, like where I didn't tighten the bit too much and the bit slid and dig the hole here or this or that. And I'm like, it's just really fun to see where you started from. So I just started winging it. After I did that, I had found this really cool octopus image and I was like searching for a quote. So I have this carving that says a skilled sailor. Wait, a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. And I put that on there and I just loved it. I did like a really cool wavy background to like represent the ocean and everything. And just had a lot of fun with it and got hooked immediately. And then I just started making carvings for people.
That's awesome.
And then booking shows.
I like that. You have to challenge yourself. That's what I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I need a challenge. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I get really bored quick.
Yeah. That whole story, though, that you said, that was after you had kids and you needed like some way to like reclaim like who you were as a person.
Postpartum and all that too. Like it brings you down.
That like totally resonates with me. Totally resonates.
It does. Like your life completely changes.
Yeah. I got really obsessed with custom tattooing after I had my first child. I was like obsessed. And that's where like all of my body art has come from.
Was this your postpartum midlife crisis? All of this tattooing?
Whatever it was
That's
called.
interesting.
I just became obsessed with custom tattooing.
This is a new revelation on the Soft Serve podcast.
You knew this already.
I didn't know it was in response to motherhood.
It was about having something
that's yours, right?
That's mine, because I felt like I was like constantly being dependent upon by this child, and I needed something that was like me, like this is my body, and I wanted to reclaim claim it somehow.
Why did you make me get tattoos then?
I didn't make you get anything.
You claimed
Tattoos
my
are hot
body.
on guys, that's why.
Tiffany, she didn't stop at her body. She forced me.
I didn't force.
She forced me to get tattoos.
Lies.
You seem really upset that you have those.
Yeah,
really
seriously.
Where do you get your wood for carving?
So I used to get it from a local place in Belchtown, but he's not really selling besides retail.
Mm-hmm.
So now it's kind of like a mix. I try to avoid Home Depot and Lowe's as much as possible. I go to Bull Yards in Chicopee. That's kind of where I go right now. And because they have the best pine, it's very clear and awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And they have this great thick cedar that I've been using a lot. So yeah, I try to support more local. I mean, when you're in a pinch and you need like a glue up piece that's already done for you, I'm running to Lowe's. Absolutely.
Do you have a favorite type of wood to work with?
I know it's weird, but I really love pine. I mean, people hate on pine, but it carves so nice and it takes the paint perfectly.
Is that because it's like a soft wood?
Yeah, it's very soft. I mean, it can be very grainy, so it can jump on you a lot, but I love it. It carves really nicely. It doesn't really have tear outs. Like you'll be carving something like an M or something in the middle of the M pops off. Like that's heartbreaking. So like the harder woods that can sometimes happen with you, but like I've always had pretty good luck with pine. And
do you have a wood that you really don't like to work with? Is there one that's really difficult?
I mean, oak takes a long time to sand, but no, not really. I'm kind of up for anything. I've done teak this year, which was really cool. That's a new one that I haven't used before. And I actually hand router carved a family coat of arms on it. So like a super highly detailed piece on this wood that I had never used before, but it was actually a dream. I really enjoyed it.
What's the most unusual sign somebody's asked you to make or you've made?
It was for like a palm reader. And she had this image of like two faces merging together with like very light feathers coming off and like the sun was coming down. It was just like a lot of very delicate stuff that I was trying to like do in a carving form. So I have to say that's probably one of my biggest challenges because I'm just like, how can I make something so soft? But I use a lot of thick, black, hard lines. So it was definitely a challenge. If people go looking for it, it's very, very early in my profile. It was one of the first customs I had.
Have you ever been asked to make a sign that you had to say no to? Like, I'm not down with that idea at this time. That's too technically challenging for me, or like some combination of those things. Can you share that with us?
Definitely. Well, I've had some where people want it too fast.
Mm-hmm.
Like when you come to me, expect to wait at least 2 months. Like, because I'm balancing so many things and I only do it at night and I don't rush. Like I don't want to rush anybody's stuff. I want to have it done to where it has to be done. Like I don't want to give you something that I'm not proud of. So people will come to me like, hey, I need something, but it's for next week. That's an immediate no. It's not happening. Like, and that's happened. So you don't even know how many times that has happened. I've said no a lot for time restrictions. I've had to say no because I didn't think I could do it in that size. Like now I'm not afraid of size so much, but like on the CNC, you have to do the technique called tiling, where you carve a spot, you slide the carving forward, match exactly where you left off, and then start your carve again and pray that you lined it up all properly. So I'm starting to do that more, like trying to be a little bit more adventurous. I'm actually going to start challenging myself to like just do some things for fun, just so I can learn the technique better, because it's scary. You don't want to ruin something. But yeah, I usually try to figure it out. I've had to say no because their budget's too low.
Yeah. So that's really interesting. So this is going to be my existential question of the evening. I was reflecting earlier when I was preparing for our conversation about how sign making is, it's a tradition that goes back millennia through human civilization, right? I'm, thinking about the signs, hanging on pubs in the dark ages, welcoming traveling strangers in for a beer or a hot toddy, right? Like, do you ever think about the fact that you're like engaged in this ancient tradition of craftsmanship and connect to that in any way?
Honestly, never, but now I sure do. Thank you for making me feel so much like more connected to things. No, I get excited that I'm adding to the landscape of where I live. So like today I delivered 2 signs to a local like smoothie shop, juice bar place. And I went there, brought my kids to deliver the sign, and we had smoothies together, and it was really cool. Mm-hmm. And soon I'll be seeing those signs hanging in front of their building. I did a local farm in Wilbraham. Their sign that I made them is right in front. I get to drive by that if I want to. So like, I feel like I'm adding value to where I live, which is really cool, and making it just a little bit more aesthetically pleasing. My quote used to be like, I like to make things pretty. That's how I used to advertise myself. I like making things pretty. Like, I can make that ugly ass sign there a lot nicer. Let me help you out, let's make this world a little bit nicer to look at.
Yeah, that's awesome. And another really interesting thing I think you're doing in terms of the community is this Night Carver community designed art program you have.
The Sticker Club.
Yeah, can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. So that's actually what I was telling you guys earlier that I have to work on design for, and I'm kind of under a time crunch. I am doing a piece of like custom carved art every month that I am creating with my Patreon. So like it's $5 a month if you want just like the sticker. And then like I have one for 20 if you want a print of it. But I was trying to figure out a way where I can work with people on a custom order, but make it more affordable because we all can't afford a $600 carving. Like I know I can't. So I'm like, how can I have somebody, first of all, potentially win? Because when you join the Patreon, you actually get a ticket to try to win the sign.
Yeah.
But like design it too. Like I have a lot of people who are in my club right now are artists, and they've been questioning me like, hey, how do you make this? What's your design process? What are your painting techniques? So it kind of gave me a way where I'm getting some money for it, which is great. But I'm also teaching people what I do, and they get to ask questions they don't normally get to ask. And I'm like sharing behind the scenes of how we're building these things. And it's kind of cool because I don't have any power in the club. Mm-hmm. I am the person who just goes, here are the 10 themes that we're going to choose from this month. And then we narrow it down to 3. And then eventually they pick one. So I can throw some themes out there that I want to do. That's about as much influence as I have. And it's kind of fun. So like this month they're doing Batman. And when Batman won, it wasn't just like finalized. Like, yeah, we're going to make Batman. It was, okay, from Batman, what do you want to create? And I had people narrow it down to like, I think what the choices were: Poison Ivy, the Joker, or the Batmobile. Mm-hmm. And they chose the Batmobile, which I was actually shocked by. So I'm doing the 1989 Michael Keaton Batmobile right now. And I just redrew it last night. So I found some reference art. Again, searched, but I couldn't find anything on Etsy. So this one I did draw in Illustrator. But I found some reference art. And right now I am going ahead and making like 3 different mock-ups for the sticker team to choose from. And then once we have that narrowed down, I'll start carving it, painting it. And then once it's completed, I take the best photos that I can, order stickers and prints at that point, and then they'll get them by like in the next month. And then currently right now, I am raffling off last month's piece, which is the Beetlejuice waiting room scene. Mm-hmm. It's sitting right in front of me, staring at me. And it's $2 a ticket. So not only can you, affordably get a copy of something and help go through the design process, but you can also win it for $2 too.
That's awesome.
So I'm trying to like learn how to get that incremental money or what do they call it? Passive income.
Yes.
I'm trying to get better at that so that I can go full time, because I need to know that I'm going to have enough money to survive right now. Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like a really tough decision.
As an artist, how does it feel giving up that power to your Patreons, to your fans?
It's kind of liberating.
Yeah.
Because when you get custom orders, you don't really get a choice in it, really. You can help kind of maneuver it to like a better decision or give them some guidance. But they tell me what I'm going to do and I just do it. And it's kind of fun. Mm-hmm. I kind of like it because I'm like, I don't have to think too much. They're feeding me all the answers and I get to see what people really want, which is cool. Mm-hmm. It's like I can guess what I think they're going to go for, but it usually doesn't end up at all what I thought.
Yeah, you said you said you were surprised by the Batmobile. What surprised you about that?
I thought it'd be more of Joker. Honestly, I thought it was gonna be Joker because like everybody loves the Joker, right? Or like Batman himself. Are you looking for a Joker piece? And you're like, hold on, let me show you my Joker. But you're like, I didn't think it was gonna be just like, you know, his car. You know, I thought it'd be a character from the movie. So to me, like that was really cool. And then my input is I was like, hey, what if we take the side view of the car and we use like the bat signal or maybe go 3-dimensional by cutting out the bat. So I'm like, I'm going to give them a few different choices, but at the end, they're going to be the ones picking it and telling me what they like. And then we'll be tweaking it. And then I will let them tell me like, do you want to do traditional colors? Do you want to venture out to something else? Like, what do you guys want to do? So
that's
cool.
fun.
Yeah. I know you picked the 1989 Batmobile. Do you have a favorite, since we were talking about the Joker and you're a self-acclaimed movie buff, I'm going to ask this question. Do you have a favorite cinematic depiction of the Joker?
I think Heath Ledger did an amazing job. I have to go there. As much as I love Jack Nicholson, that one might have been a little too, I don't know.
Just pause for one moment.
The darkness of Heath Ledger's for sure.
I want to award Tiffany.
Oh, is that the right answer?
One of these.
Is that the right answer? Is that what you're saying?
I think it is the right answer. Yes. Yeah. The second best Joker is Joaquin Phoenix. The third best Joker is Jared Leto. The fourth and worst Joker is Jack Nicholson.
I don't know that I agree with you.
That's strong, man.
Yep.
I don't know that I agree with
That's
you.
Strong.
I feel like we've had this conversation before because, like, I feel like the Tim Burton version of Batman had a like very specific aesthetic to it that is completely different than what is the dark whatever
Christopher Nolan.
Yeah, like it's completely different. You know, it's like we had this other conversation too, like about like the comics from the 50s and the 60s, like how they were so hokey and
it was
then
more comical. Yeah, it was more fun.
Yeah,
we'll say.
Yeah, and I grew up watching like the TV Batman, Adam West, and whoever played the Joker. I had no idea who played the Joker on the TV show.
Now let's put your
let's
put your defensiveness about my opinion of the Joker aside.
Yes.
I'll agree that I'm correct. And now I want to ask Tiffany. Now
that's the right answer.
Away from the keyboard.
now we need to ask Tiffany about her podcast.
Oh, okay. Sorry, we're going down a Batman rabbit hole. Is that what you're
that's
saying?
okay. I've been talking a lot about Batman lately, so it's totally fine.
But if we ever do a pop culture podcast, I think we have found a guest to come on and talk with us, or even a co-host. All right, now tell us about your Behind the Maker podcast.
Yeah, absolutely. So as I got more involved with being a maker, I used to be on Facebook more and then eventually made that leap to Instagram. And Instagram has like this insane world of makers that all support each other. Like like when I first started, they were saying a lot of community over competition. And it seems like hokey pokey, like that can't be real. People aren't really helping each other out with their businesses, but it legit is. Like you get on there and they are the most supportive people and they always just like help you rise with them. And it's amazing. So like about a little over a year ago, I met this girl, Nicole, and I saw her and she like reached out and she really liked a piece of art that I made. I'm like, oh, you know what? She seems cool. I'm just going to send her it like as a gift because she seemed really fun. So I sent her this piece. It was like a $20 piece. So it wasn't anything crazy either. And she was like, oh my God, I can't believe you did this. This is nuts. You're ridiculous. Right. And we just started talking. I always say that it started off with some heavy flirting because I mean, it did. I was like, hey girl. And then we just kept we just got along so well. We would just talk all day. Right. And eventually we were like, I was like, I whispered to her and I'm like, can I tell you a secret? She's like, what? I'm like, I want to be famous. I'm going to be straight up vulnerable. I've always wanted to be on the radio or do a podcast or, something where I get to be a little bit creative, but like chat with people and get to know them. So she was like, you know what? I feel the same exact way. So I'm like, so are we doing this? We starting a podcast? And literally, I think we met in March and we like got to know each other. And then by November, we had a podcast up and running and we had our first episode out November 15th.
That's awesome.
Sweet.
I'm going to give you another one of these.
That's awesome.
In case you didn't know, Stomping Jen, I am a podcaster.
Oh, you are?
Yes, you are too.
Oh, I am.
And we support
I did not know that.
we support podcasters
That's
here.
true. Yes.
We love them.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what have you learned from talking to all of these makers that you've talked to?
I feel like we're all so similar in some aspects. Like how you were saying, Jen, that you related a lot to like needing some time by yourself and or like something that made you feel more like you.
Yes.
A lot of people got into making because they wanted to express themselves or they needed some time alone. So I'm kind of like learning a little bit of a pattern. And just like people are just genuinely awesome. I've been learning like the negativity that's out there in the world. You don't really see it in the maker community. Everybody's so positive and hilarious. But I've learned a lot about how I could like navigating conversations. Like certain people, like we advertise as an adult podcast.
Yeah.
Like we make sure we have that. And like you guys are saying, like we have the like rating because we want you to swear. We want you to be perverted. We want innuendos. Like we want to have fun. Because the reason we started it is that we wanted to kick around with makers that we stalk on IG, you know, like all the friends that you go when you wake up and you're like, hey guys, what are you doing today? You know, like we actually wanted to get to know them more than just like their profiles and what they're making. So like we intentionally don't ask them about their projects they're working on. We try to avoid like tool talk. We try to avoid like, I feel like a lot of like there's a lot of like maker podcasts out there. We just try to avoid anything anybody else was doing because we want it to be a fun, easy listening podcast. Like we literally start and just keep going. It doesn't stop. We just chat away for an hour to 2 hours and, you know, what comes out of it comes out of it. And we've had episodes where we've cried. We've had episodes where we've peed our pants laughing. You know, we talk about the most ridiculous things and it all kind of depends on your guest. Like, I've learned to navigate people who, you know, aren't going to say something that's not politically correct or, you know, a little racy. So you just kind of stay a little bit more serious for them, you know, like you try to like work with the people. You don't want to push somebody out of their boundaries. So
Meet people.
It's been fun though.
Meet people where they're at.
Right.
Right.
It's true.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And I like that you, try to spend some time to get to know these people, right? Versus focusing on the particulars of their craft or whatever. I kind of like that. I like that approach. Yeah. What do you think, Stomping Jen? I am now sitting here realizing I was asking about tools.
I know.
And I'm going to rip off
all I can think about is that you were talking about CNC machines and routers.
I did break into a CNC Music Factory impression. I will remind you.
That for a bit.
You did.
No, I'm about to rip off my headphones and run out of here. I think I've been doing this all wrong.
Oh my God. We're not doing the Behind the Maker podcast. We're doing the Soft Serve podcast.
Why aren't we? It sounds good.
We can listen to her podcast.
Where did this name come from, Soft Serve podcast? I want to know.
So I recently told this again, but I'll tell it again because we probably have new people listening to this. I belong to a adult gaming group of men all approaching 50. We are infinitely and endlessly immature. So we just we wanted to name our gaming group the Soft Serve Gaming Group for some reason. I don't even know why. We were going to get Jack.
I can only imagine.
We were going to get.
Why it was called Soft Serve.
Probably some disgusting reason. But we were going to get jackets made up, and we were all going to go to PAX East wearing like these jackets and
like the Pink Ladies.
Yeah, and like an original. One of my original ideas for this podcast was to do it with that group of friends. Now, they're lovely people and they're wonderful to play games with, but they're boring as hell on a podcast. They just sit there and they don't say much. I've had two of them on as guests separately, and they've both been really good as guests. But as a group, the whole like gaming thing didn't translate
into
a podcast. And I gave up on it, but I kept the name because I like the name.
Mm-hmm.
It's fun. Yeah. I had no clue what it was about. So that's why I made sure to give you guys a little bit of a
thanks.
thing
And
as well, you know?
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And it's been a barrier in terms of finding an audience a bit. We've really picked up over the pandemic. I'm kind of like really happy where we're at now. But you know, it's been almost 3 years, you know, and
you've been working this thing,
and you work it and you persist, and eventually, you know, you'll find your people, you know, and that's the thing. But yeah, that's how we came up with the name.
Oh, that's cool.
What's been challenging for you in doing a podcast?
Balancing time with my wood carving and that. So like, you know, I already wear enough hats and then I added another one.
Yeah.
But I find it so fulfilling that I would never trade it. You know, like it's just a lot of like, okay, I got to record tonight, so I can't carve, I can't design. And you kind of just have to accept that whatever you had planned is going to have to wait till the next day. Mm. So it's a lot of balancing. And it's the kind of same thing with, you know, having the side business at night. Like it's a lot of sacrifice, but I feel like it's totally worth it if it's something that you really enjoy.
Yeah. As I know you've got to get into the shop and start working on that Batmobile. So I only have 3 more questions for you.
No problem. We're doing fine.
Yeah. What's your favorite horror movie? We talked about horror movies a couple of times. Do you have a favorite horror movie? A favorite horror movie villain?
I'm a classic Halloween fan. I'm a Michael Myers fan. I don't do a lot of Michael Myers art yet, but I have a lot of designs. But I don't know. I just like the simplicity of it, I think. It had a very standard story, and the music just gets you involved, and the creepiness of that mask and just his eyes. Like, I just love that. But for a newer movie, Happy Death Day, I really like that. Or I enjoy like spoof movies, like How to Survive, How the Boy Scouts Zombie Apocalypse movie. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you've seen that one.
Haven't seen it.
No.
So freaking funny. So I like, you know, those like hilarious zombie movies that they're adding more humor into them, you know, Zombieland and stuff like that. Oh, The Boy Scouts Guide to the Zombie Apocalypse. That's the name of it.
I have to say, I think my favorite like contemporary series of horror movies has to be The Purge. Like I love those Purge movies.
Those are good. Yes. No, those are good. You got to pay attention though, because like you got to see what's going on.
Yeah. I really love those. I think they're underrated.
The Purge.
Yeah. Stomping Jen, I have a favorite 80s horror movie villain. Do you know who it is?
Do I know who it is?
Yes.
Jason. No?
Yes. I had an altar to Jason Voorhees in my bedroom as a child, yes.
That's a little
I bought a hockey mask and I put it like a little fake plastic knife in there.
So funny.
That's a little creepy.
All right, Tiffany.
Wait.
Oh, look, there it is. Tiffany is holding up a Jason Voorhees mask.
I was like, what do you mean? Just normal stuff to have lying around.
That's awesome. Okay.
What's your favorite movie? What's your favorite horror movie?
My favorite horror movie of all time?
Yeah.
Oh, God, I would need to think about this.
It's tough.
Oh, Lord have mercy on my soul. I'm going to have to punt on that. I'm sorry.
What? You can't come up with one?
I can't. Not right now. It's too many to pick from. I mean, if you forced me, Friday the 13th, Part 6, Jason Lives. Really? I loved that movie as a kid. Yeah. Or Texas Chainsaw Massacre Part 2 is great.
I don't think I've ever seen Part 2.
Oh, God.
I recently watched like Into the Darkness, like have you seen it? It's a documentary about all the old 80s horror movies.
No, but that's going on the list.
Oh, you got to. It's really good. I think it's actually free on Prime right now, on Amazon Prime. So you got to check it out. But they talk about it, and like the cover of Texas Chainsaw Massacre has like a Breakfast Club cover where it's like goofy. They're all kind of sitting together like, hey.
Yeah.
So you got to look into that. But yeah, watch that documentary. There's a part 2 as well. They're 3 hours long, but it's worth it.
Oh, we'll check it out. But yeah, I mean, I loved those 80s horror movies. They're so great.
Yeah. I think my favorite opening sequence to any horror movie is the Dawn of the Dead remake.
Yeah. Zack Snyder's Dawn of the Dead. That opening sequence is amazing.
It's the best.
I agree. No, that was a really good opening scene.
Yeah. All right.
So much happened so fast.
So quickly.
Yeah. All right. Tiffany Marchand.
He's racing us.
Of
Is he racing us?
Of Night Carver Designs. Behind the Maker podcast. We're going to do some more talking.
You keep talking to me. Ask me some more questions, Jen. Go for it.
All right.
I'll hang out with you. Don't be careful. I start flirting after a while.
He's being time conscious.
You're carving.
I know. I appreciate it.
You're carving these signs. You're doing this podcast. How do you have to, you must need time for yourself, right? What do you do for fun, for recreation, to connect with yourself?
I carve signs.
You're a committed person.
I get massages once a month. That's
okay.
my treat.
Perfect.
It helps because I beat my body up with the carving and stuff. So it's kind of like a necessity, but it's also something that I really, really enjoy. So I will get my once a month massage. Absolutely.
Yeah,
do you have a
business expense?
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite form of massage? Shiatsu, hot stone, maybe?
I get a deep tissue, very therapeutic, painful massage.
I love those too.
I want to feel better. I want to feel better after it. Like it hurts while it happens, but
yeah.
I like Julio. He's at Elements in East Long Meadow. He's quite amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Does he have hands that look like they can break concrete?
He looks like a gentle soul, to be honest, but he can damage you pretty good.
Yeah. I want somebody with large, strong, muscular hands.
You should write down Julio. From Elements.
Julio's awesome. Jose's also really good. Damien's great. You see, I've gone there for quite a few years now. I know like the whole crew.
Okay. I'm going to write all these down. Julio, Jose, and Damien. Okay.
Now
all right.
you're wondering why I can't get an appointment.
Now, this is a question we ask everybody, and I'm going to ask it to you. We did not provide this question ahead of time. So
I'm okay with that.
What have you experienced in this wonderful, sometimes not so wonderful journey of life that you cannot explain? When you think about it, you say to yourself, I can't explain that.
I can't explain an answer to this question. I don't know, man. Give me some examples.
We've had people tell us about near-death experiences, seeing ghosts of people who had just died that they weren't aware of had just died. What else, Stomping Jen? Spirits in the woods.
All sorts of things.
UFOs.
The only thing, okay, I've got one thing. When we were little and we used to stay at my grandmother's house, she had a lot of old sculptures or something like that. Yeah, exactly. Get that music going.
Okay.
And there was this mirror that always kind of just was on the ground leaning there. And whenever us kids got up at night, we all swore to God we saw a dog with red eyes staring at us.
Oh no, in the mirror?
It would freak us out in that mirror. Every time we stayed over at our grandmother's house, we're like, dude, you saw the dog, right? It was staring at you, the red eyes? Yeah. So there you go.
Okay.
My grandmother has some kind of dog haunting her living room.
I like that. That is a great example of a thing that cannot be explained.
Yeah, we all saw it too. That's the best part. So there you go. See, the examples helped.
That is the first time I think we've been asked for examples.
No, somebody else asked.
Oh, they did? Did I provide them?
Yeah. Somebody asked you about a story and then you told about the night terrors that you have.
Oh, they asked me after. They said, tell me something that happened to you that you can't. Yeah, they put me on the spot.
Yes.
I'm not afraid to be vulnerable and say I need help.
I'm going to have to find a way to stop these guests from putting me on the spot, Stomping Jen.
Don't forget, you're interviewing a podcaster.
That's
so
right.
I have a hard time not interviewing back.
That's right.
That's true.
That's true.
Tiffany Marchand.
What else does she want to tell us?
Oh, yeah.
About?
Stomping Jen.
Jesus Christ.
You're really earning your role as a co-host tonight. Please, ask the question.
Tiffany.
Yes.
Is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to plug or talk about or mention before we...
You guys hit everything. I think it's awesome that you are interviewing people locally and kind of just connecting everybody in a very like centralized area. I think that's amazing. So honestly, I just want to toot your guys' horns for like,
thank you.
Putting your show together and like finding people from, you know, all these cool places that nobody else would know from. Like, I think that you're doing a great service to everybody and expanding their knowledge of where they live.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks. And, you know, thank you for being a part of that.
Yeah.
We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on. You know?
Yeah.
And yes, if you guys ever have a pop culture night,
Yeah, we should.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We've had a couple. I mean, like we did a WandaVision special.
Yeah, we've had very, very focused shows.
With lots of nerds.
I've always wanted to do one of those ones where you watch a movie and then talk about it. So I'm just
I'd love to do it. It's a great idea.
Super fun.
Let's do it. We'll plan it for sometime this summer.
That would be a lot of fun.
Okay.
I've listened to a lot. Like, I'm a big podcast fan in general, and there are some really cool ones that talk about movies. But then I'm like, I think I could do a better job again. I've got that real cocky personality.
We can have a behind the maker soft serve.
Yeah, let's do a duel. We can do like a duel.
I love my partner, but just to let you know, she does not like horror movies, nor does she like anything that I like usually. We're polar opposites, and I kind of love
awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, we're just huge like pop culture fans.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be a horror. We could do a different type of movie too later.
We can do any movie.
Oh, we'll do a trial run on a horror movie, and if we like it, we can do something else. That would be fun.
Absolutely.
All right, let's. Okay.
All right.
I want to just say thank you again. I really enjoyed this conversation. I learned a lot. I really appreciated mixing it up with you. You were a great guest.
Yeah. Same with you guys. It was great to get to know you.
Yeah, definitely.
Stomping Jen, what do you want to say to our listeners?
We love you.
Should we stop saying we love you? I notice other podcasts don't do that.
They don't tell people that they love them.
No.
Some do.
All right, we don't love you.
Well, I do. Why would you say that?
See, you're setting me up. You do this every freaking time.
How dare you? Listen, listeners, I love you.
See?
I will always love you. I appreciate you.
Can
Please.
you sing for us? I will always love you. I'm not allowed to sing, apparently.
Let's stick with your day job as co-host.
Oh my God.
Okay, the non-singing co-host.
All right, so so people.
Yes, subscribe,
download, share with a friend.
If you've enjoyed hearing this podcast, tell a friend about it, please.
Yes. If you'd like to come on our podcast, let us know.
Yes, we have a very fancy scheduling app. It's a joy to use.
It is very fancy.
Yeah, and please, as we're on the way out and we're about to say our bye nows, which we do here, it's the last thing we say, Stomping Jen. Please go check out Tiffany Marchand's websites. They're all going to be in the show notes. Her Night Carver Designs. She has a Facebook page, a website, an Instagram, a Linktree. Stomping Jen, a Linktree.
We need a Linktree.
We'll get a Linktree. Don't worry.
We're getting a Linktree.
And then listen to her Behind the Maker podcast. You can get it on all of the podcast places. I checked. It's there. And
That's some good research.
I followed it. Because you have to follow now an Apple podcast. You can't subscribe anymore.
Okay.
Oh, that's weird. I didn't know that.
It's the same.
Bullshit. I don't like changes.
It's the same thing, people.
No, it's not. All right. Well, we're going to go around. We're all going to say bye now, and that's going to be the end.
All right.
All right. We'll let Tiffany say bye now last. I'm going to go first this time.
Okay. You're going to go first?
Yeah. Bye now.
Bye now.
Bye now.
This world of ours, ever growing smaller, must avoid becoming a community of dreadful fear and hate. Those who have freedom will understand also its heavy responsibility. That all who are insensitive to the needs of others will learn charity, and that the sources, scourges of poverty, disease, and ignorance will be made disappear from the earth. And that in the goodness of time, all peoples will come to live together in a peace guaranteed by the binding force of mutual respect and love. I shall never cease to do what little I can to help the world advance along that road.